Welcome back into another edition of the Fantasy Authority podcast. I am your host, Kevin Steele, joined once again, by always, the hashtag Heads Life, Cody Kutzer. You can
Yeah,
find him on Twitter at CKutzerFF. And we are
yeah.
joined once again by another special guest today. Excuse me. Last week we had Jesse Reeves on covering wide receivers. This week we're going to hit up two positions, go through the quarterbacks and tight end position of this upcoming 2020 NFL Draft pre-combine. We have Zach Thomas on. You can find him on Twitter at NFL_Zach. He is the head scout for the Dynasty Draft Room and writer for Gridiron Experts and the Viking Age. How's it going today, Zach?
It's going good, man. Happy to be on. I'm always excited to be able to talk some draft prospects. So excited to get into it.
No, for sure, yeah. The most exciting positions too, the quarterback and tight ends, right?
Quarterback for sure. I don't know about tight end, but we'll talk about these guys.
Yeah, the tight end position is always like the redheaded stepchild of everything, right? No one really.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, whether it's in fantasy or
don't
real
tell
football,
Tyler that though.
It's always a purgatory. So no. Anyways, so yeah, happy to be back again for another show. You can find us on Twitter at FF_authority, and you can also find our YouTube channel, which this will be we're streaming to right now. You can find it, the Fantasy Authority, on there. Be sure to subscribe, hit that like button. Really helps us out in ranking with YouTube and everything else. So, anyways, let's just kind of jump right into things here. So I know, Zach, that you are working on, or you do a draft guide every year, which I don't know how you do that. It's enough work doing everything else with. So that much respect to that. But what has been your biggest takeaway throughout building the draft guide so far?
Yeah, man, this is actually my first year doing it. For the last couple of years, I've kind of been pondering the thought, like, am I going to have enough time? Do I have, can I dedicate that much time to watching tape? Because I try to put at least 4 games of film on each prospect that I write, that I scout. So I got about 200 in there, 200 prospects going into this guide. I'm hoping for a little bit more. But yeah, my biggest takeaway is don't get over excited for every single one of these prospects. They're not all fantastic. They're all not great. They all have really good, intriguing qualities that you got to kind of pick and choose, where they're going to end up. I think this year what I did a little bit better was trying to put them into an NFL system and trying to figure out where they're going to be at have their best potential at in a certain offense or a certain defensive scheme, stuff like that. So kind of trying to figure that out is a good way to figure out how those prospects are going to prosper better at the next level.
I think I thought you did the draft guide last year because I remember we were talking at one point and you said you had you do like your own like grading scale for all these prospects. So I think that's where I got that mixed up. Has anything changed from, when you started doing that last year to anything this year? Like, is there anything that you have weighted more or less, anything you've added, anything you've subtracted like that?
Yeah, I used to weight, I didn't want to say I weighted a lot of the combine, but I definitely took a lot of the weight off of the combine. I don't want to say a lot, but like specific things, for instance, when I scout offensive linemen, I do get like a better sense of, how athletic, how powerful, how strong you are on film. When I go into the combine, really what I want to see is your medicals. What I want to see is your size, how big your wingspan is, your arm size, like all that. So I get a feel for, where I could place you. Because if you're a tackle in college, it doesn't mean you're going to be a tackle in the NFL. I can tell you that right now. Happens with a lot of guys, guys that struggle with length. They're getting to the outside. They'll move inside to kind of mask those inabilities that they got there with their length. So I took a little bit of weight off the combine. Kind of didn't. I've chosen like certain questions on specific guys and put them in a category of, okay, this is what I need to find at the combine. So that's kind of one thing that I've taken off a little bit. I definitely add so I have specific traits that I kind of break down, and I've added a few and subtracted a few. Some that I don't think that matter, some that I do think matter that need to get a little bit more of a bump. Every year, man, it's changing and getting better, and trying to find that fine tuning and all these little things that make us all better at the year after year.
Are you a big hand size guy? Is that a big thing for you?
No, not necessarily. Actually, I mean, when it comes to wide receivers, I definitely look at it. When it comes to quarterbacks, I definitely look at it. But anything else, honestly, that's not something I put to every type of prospect. I mean, different size means different things for different prospects. So if you can catch the ball well and you got 9 3/4 inch hands, that's fine.
Well, you know what they say about guys with big hands, right? So I mean,
big gloves, I think, right?
Yeah. So I'm just saying. But I know a few years ago it was a big deal. Big hot debate on hand size Twitter. So yeah.
Who's the small-handed quarterback? I forget that. They were saying he fumbles all the time. He's got to have small hands. I forget who it was, but there was someone that was just big.
Jared Goff? Was it Goff?
It might have been. That sounds about right. It wasn't too long ago. Yeah, it wasn't too long ago, so it might have been him.
That's what I was trying to think of because everyone's making the big deal about well, hopefully he doesn't go anywhere on the East Coast and he doesn't have to play in this cold weather and the rain and everything because he's going to be screwed. Total bust right off the bat.
I know, right? I mean, that's what it's about. Screw everything else. What's your hand size, bud?
Before we get any further, let me see them hands.
Yeah. So I don't know. Anyways, well, again, much respect to you for doing that because the NFL draft guides I couldn't even. So is it just for fantasy purposes where it's like quarterback through tight end, or do you do defense, offensive line, the whole thing?
I do the whole thing, man. I've actually I'm big into fantasy. I write for the Gridiron Experts. Do a lot of fantasy stuff for them, obviously. But I mean, my niche, the thing that I love to do is write NFL draft content. Studying these prospects. Coming into the draft. Like once the draft's over, I'll start looking at 2021 guys. So I'm all about these upcoming college prospects and checking them out and making sure I get a head up on these guys. I mean, it helps for fantasy purposes, but I think it helps more for these NFL guys that want to really dig into the full aspect, the full realm of what the NFL is all about.
What's your favorite position to scout, Zach?
On offense, it's definitely the wide receiver position. I played that in high school, so I kind of know the most about it, I'd say. On defense, I love to scout edge rushers. It's probably my favorite overall would be edge rushers. I was too small to be an edge rusher, so I didn't do that. So I got to learn the different techniques of being an edge rusher, different types of edge rushers, guys that play inside, guys that play outside, different techniques, all that fun stuff. So it's fun watching these guys, whether they, can bend the edge on the outside or they can just swim move on the inside and beat you in a variety of different ways. So that's probably the most fun position for me to watch.
Well, I think what everybody probably really wants to know, though, is do you scout kickers and punters? Is that something? Long snappers?
No, man. No, that's not it. I do scout. I should start scouting punters, see how well they can hit that kick inside the 20.
Yeah, that coffin corner kick life. Yeah, I mean, Pat McAfee.
Maybe next year. Don't tell Pat.
Okay. Well, all right. Well, yeah. And when is it coming out so people can buy it?
Yeah, man. You can purchase it right now for $9.99. If you use the promo code NFL Draft, you get 10% off right now. So for you math whizzes, that's $8.99. It's going to be dropping on March 13th. That's the set goal date. I'll be honest, I keep looking at the date, and I'm like, oh, crap. I'm close to 200, so I'm for sure hitting 200. But, man, I got 257 planned. I know I'm probably not going to hit that number, though, for sure, because it's a lot of guys to get to. I mean, it's all I do. There's not even TV to watch no more. It's just tape. So that's going to be dropping March 13th. That's a Friday 13th. Felt like it's a good day for that to drop a couple weeks after the combine and whatnot. But yeah, you can go to dynastydraftroom.com/NFL Draft Guide. Like I said, you can purchase that now, pre-order it, and you'll be able to download it in a PDF form on March 13th.
Awesome. So sling that's slinging them draft guides. So make sure everyone goes out and picks one of those up. So I'm sure it'll be excellent stuff. So let's go ahead and just jump right into some of these players. We're going to start with the quarterback position and just kind of talk our way through this a little bit. As we kind of talked about pre-show, there seems to be a ton of teams right now that are in the market or could be in the market for a quarterback, depending on what happens with Tom Brady and the Patriots or Jameis Winston and the Bucks, and some of these other guys. But so right now, I guess as just kind of an overall view, right, just kind of off the top, do you think how many quarterbacks do you think are going to go in the first round? Do you think it's going to be the three, Burrow, Tua, and Justin Herbert, or could be somebody else sneak in that we're not really expecting?
Yeah, I think the over/under right now is at 4.5. I honestly think it's going to be 4, and I think it's going to be they're all going to be in like right around that top 10 range as well. I think you obviously have Burrow going 1. I think you could see Tua going top 5. Herbert's going to be right around that top 5, and I think you could see Love maybe even sneak inside the top 5 the top 10. Just because I think people are going to like the teams are going to like his traits alone. I would say if you're gonna be betting on that, I'd take the under. I'd take the 4. But man, I mean, Jacob Eason could sneak in there with Tampa Bay. Sounds like Tampa really loves him and his deep ball throwing. I don't want to say like Jake Fromm's going to make it in the mix there. I don't want to say Jalen Hurts is going to make it in the mix there because, as much as I do like Jake Fromm, I think I'm higher on him than the consensus. And I'm definitely not a Jalen Hurts fan. I would like to see them go a little bit later and see some teams take a little bit more value before they take someone like a Fromm or Hurts.
Now the important question is: are you team Tua or are you team Joe? Where do you land on that?
Yeah, I'll pull up my grades right now. They both got early first round grades for me. They're both about a half a point off, honestly, so they're close together. But I gave the edge to Burrow.
Now with we can obviously apply this across the board, but specifically since we're talking about quarterbacks right now, how do you handle and how do you evaluate the 1 year production guys like a Joe Burrow? Obviously transferred from Ohio State, was second, third on that depth chart, and then he comes out and like literally has a historic year. Do you just trust what you see in that 1 year and just go off of that, or like do you kind of maybe not knock a guy, but are you more hesitant on a 1 year producer like that?
I wouldn't say I'm hesitant on him at all. I would say it does go in as a red flag for me. It's something I do look at. I look at the background and kind of try to figure out what's going on. Why were you not, a consistent starter throughout your career? Why weren't you, putting on more production? So it's definitely something that clicks in my head, like, what the heck's going on here? But I'll be honest with you. I turned to the film of Joe Burrow last year when I was doing my offseason scouting of him, and he ended up as my quarterback 6. So it's not like he wasn't like too far down the board. I couldn't tell you what it was exactly. I think it was like, Tua, Herbert, Fromm was up there, Eason was up as well. So Burrow still landed amongst those guys that were talked about earlier on in the season and who are at the top of the boards right now. But I mean, the meteoric rise of this dude is skyrocketed up draft boards for sure. But I mean, I'll be honest with you. I mean, you look at a guy like a Henry Ruggs. He never topped 750 receiving yards in his career at Alabama. I get that he had a lot of people around him, but the point is, like, he's not putting up tremendous numbers. We're all talking about him like a top tier wide receiver, right? So I think that's how you kind of got to look at Burrow too. You look at what he did last year. I think there was a lot of traits that you can like with him. I think he has a good head on his shoulders. You see the pocket presence this year with him. I mean, he just has the traits that you can't necessarily teach. The mental makeup, the mental aspect of the game, being able to process, all these different, blitzes that are coming at him, the different looks defenses are giving him, the ability to look off, linebackers over the middle of the field and the ability to shade a safety to one side of the field or not. I mean, that's tough to teach, and he already has that in his arsenal. So I think you see that. You saw it last year. You see a whole lot of it this year with a much better offensive scheme. He's going to have an NFL scheme next year, obviously. I mean, it's Zach Taylor and the Bengals, so kind of question the scheme in general, but I think it's definitely something he could succeed in, and that's why he's my quarterback 1.
So you're not of the belief, like all the national media is right now, that he should pull an Eli and not go to the Cincinnati Bengals?
I mean, I don't know. You do what you do you can do what you got to do to succeed in the NFL, right? I mean, if he thinks that's the best way to go for it, I guess. I don't really care. I just want to see you out there on the field. I think it's in his best interest to not act like a drama queen right away, but and just go to the Bengals and play some ball. But I don't know. Do what you got to do. He's a good ball player.
Yeah, I mean, he's an Ohio kid. I mean, you look at Cincinnati. I mean, they're not a terrible situation to go into. I mean, they have some weapons, depending on what they do with A.J. Green. They still have Tyler Boyd. Their offensive line, once they get his name escaped me, the left tackle that got hurt that they drafted last year.
Yeah. John Williams.
So once you get him back, Joe Mixon, I mean, they have some weapons, so it's not a terrible situation. It's not like he's entering some situation where they have absolutely nobody, like the Redskins, and what Dwayne Haskins had to walk into kind of last year. So I don't know. Like I think it's kind of ridiculous that some of the national media is trying to make it into like Cincinnati is this terrible landing spot for a quarterback. I mean, so.
Yeah, I don't think you got to worry about the offense as much as you got to worry about that defense. It's terrible over there. I mean, personally, me, I'm not dipping out and pulling Eli. If I'm Joe Burrow, I'm telling you, you were a kid that was maybe a 4th, 5th round pick coming into the end of the season this year. Now you're a first overall pick. Take that money, play for that team, and try to build it into something.
Yeah, especially. I mean, he's a Ohio kid, right? From Ohio and everything else. So
yeah, he's from Athens. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I just thought that was ridiculous, but
it is ridiculous. The national media do anything to hype you up in the offseason.
We gotta get Auden Tate going. That's what I'm here for.
Yeah, he's another guy that was hyped up when he was coming to the season. He was coming into his final season and kind of took a dud. He's a good player though.
Yeah, it felt nice seeing him give us some fantasy worthy weeks. Dude, I was so high on guys like him and Alan Lazard coming out, so feels nice to kind of take that L away for the time being, at least. that did not look good for a while.
Yeah, when you hit on guys like that, it's definitely a good look.
Cincinnati always holds a special place in my heart. Jeremy Hill, pull one out, son. Like that's Jeremy Hill time. But anyways,
he had one good year.
Excuse you. He's a Super Bowl champion. Okay, remember he has a ring. Not many guys can say that. But
Zach, in case you weren't aware, there's a quota that Kev has to meet every show for at least mentioning that once. So hopefully we don't have to hear it again.
He is quota, so we're good.
I'm saving the Josh Gordon one too, so we haven't got to that part yet. So, anyways, with Burrow, he is somebody as well who has rushed for over almost about each of the last 2 years. He had 400 yards rushing and 12 touchdowns. Is that something that you think as well is that he can make it to a big part of his game? Not necessarily, obviously, not anywhere on the same stratosphere as like a Lamar Jackson, but maybe something that we see similar to like a Josh Allen?
I wouldn't say it's quite to the Josh Allen level. I think Josh Allen's more of a tuck and run kind of player. I think Joe Burrow's more that I'll tuck it and run it if I absolutely have to type of guy. You know what I mean? Like Allen's more like, okay, first read not there, second read not there, and go. Maybe even first read go type of thing. Where Burrow will scan the entire field. I mean, he'll go until he feels that pocket start collapsing. That's one thing that I really like about him is his feel in the pocket. So I think he's good for probably about 250 to 300 yards a year. Maybe with a couple touchdowns here and there, because like I said, man, he's got a head on his shoulders that he can just sense pressure, roll out, scramble, do what he needs to do, and pick up chunk of yards if he has to. I'm not. Like I said, I wouldn't put him in that Josh Allen category, but I would say it's a good comparison to the running ability at least.
All right, so the other one would be Tua, obviously, and there's obviously the concern with injuries, right? He hasn't been able to stay healthy, and now he has this hip injury. We don't know a ton about it, where he's at with it, but obviously I think whoever drafts him would probably be better suited to have him sit out the entire year of 2020 and then, kind of as a bridge year to get him ready. But are you concerned, or do you think how heavily do you think teams are going to weigh that into their process of looking at him? Because, there's starting to be rumors with Justin Herbert that a lot of teams are becoming enamored with him because of his ability and some of the things he's been able to do, even though he hasn't really taken that next step that people were expecting from him, where people were talking about him as like the next, big quarterback prospect, and he kind of has fallen off. But with Tua, how concerned are you with his injury history?
Yeah, man. First of all, the thing about Herbert is we know who Herbert is. He's been, playing for the last 4 years and putting up this, decent numbers. I mean, I feel like people were expecting him to put up, 4,000 or 5,000 yards like Burrow's doing, and he's not, because that's not the type of player he is. So it looks disappointing because he's kind of staying stagnant, But Herbert's a decent prospect, and if you like Herbert more than Tua, mainly because of the injuries, I'm not going to sit here and argue with you because these lower body injuries. I mean, he had an ankle injury, obviously the big dislocated hip. I think he had surgery on both ankles, if I remember correctly. Don't quote me on that, but I know it's at least one. I think it was both. But the kid's an amazing player, but I definitely have huge red flags when it comes to his medicals. And I'll tell you, the one big thing is when he walks into the combine, if he does not clear medicals, he might not even be a first rounder, man. But the signs point to him starting to be pretty healthy and looking to maybe be able to throw on his pro day.
Yeah, it's just been a shame with him because, when he popped onto the scene in the national title games a few years ago, and kind of took everything. Yeah, it took everything by storm. But that's really been his only problem because I feel like if he hasn't had all these injuries, we could be talking about him as being the number 1 overall pick and not Joe Burrow. But this is kind of what happens every year at the start of every season. There's the preseason darlings, and then somebody comes out of nowhere and yanks the rug out from under them. But with Tua, do you feel like that? How if he were to end up with the Dolphins, do you think that's a good fit for him somewhere, or is there another team that you think would be a better landing spot for him?
Yeah, with the humidity down there, that might be bad for that hip. Start tightening up down there. No, I think being in Miami is a good fit for him. You get a city year. I would suspect that you city year if you're Tua. But it sounds like, he might be ready to go at the start of the season. that just seems crazy to me. But from everything I heard, things are pointing so far up that, he could be ready at the start of the season. I don't think you should do that. I would love him with the Chargers. Be able to sit behind a guy like Tyrod Taylor who has good experience. I know he hasn't been overly successful. Last time he was, he brought the Bills to the playoffs, and then he went to the Browns and got, beat up by Baker at the third or fourth game of the year. So if they stick with Tyrod, I think you could give Tua at least half the season, if not a full season, to just kind of sit, get healthy, get acclimated to the NFL. But yeah, I would not mind him in Miami. I would not mind him in Los Angeles. Man, it's just he could go anywhere right now, anywhere from 3 to Detroit to to Miami to Carolina. Chargers, just anywhere right inside that top 10 there. So it's tough to really predict where he's going to go.
Yeah, I think the draft capital is going to tell us all we need to know about his injury and how teams are feeling about him. Because then even if he does go super early, there's eventually going to be a report that comes out that's like, that team was crazy because, we weren't going to touch him because of his hip. So, we'll get to kind of see how all that plays out here in 2 months now. It's awesome. Dude, I can't wait for the draft.
Dude, I can't wait either. I'll be down in Vegas for that.
Oh my God. Dude, I would not survive, just for the record. That is I would not come back.
This might be my last time on the podcast.
Do you have is it Herbert easily 3 for you there? Or do you have somebody else who's sneaking up? Because I feel like for most people, the top 3 is kind of cemented, and then after that is where it kind of, can get a little screwy with, people kind of flipping their rankings around. Is it easily Herbert there at 3 for you?
Yeah, I don't know if I'd say it's easily, and this is what I mean. I got Fromm just behind him. He graded out of my scale very closely to Herbert. I personally, in my mind, I'm like, man, Herbert's going to grade out better, but the head on Fromm, it skyrocketed his grade for me. I think he's going to be one of those, good game managing type of quarterbacks that can, work the field well, put passes where he needs to put them, not be this deep down the field type of passer, but, someone that can work an offense to the likings of the offensive coordinator, So I do have Fromm fairly close to Herbert, but I do have Herbert solidified as that number 3.
I think you're contractually obligated to say Jake from State Farm. Isn't that what
Jake
it is?
from State Farm?
Yeah.
Jake from State Farm. Yeah.
I thought that was it. Yeah.
There we go. Jeremy Hill, Super Bowl champ.
Hey, pull one out for the man. LSU. Here we go. So what is it about like a guy like Jordan Love? Because I mean, when I sit there and look at him, and you start looking at, I mean, if you just again, this is kind of one of those conversations we have with some of the other positions where guys don't have those eye-popping stats to really jump out at you. Somebody like Jordan Love, I believe he had, what is he I think he had 17 interceptions last year. Almost had more interceptions than touchdowns. I believe that's correct. But
20 touchdowns, 17 picks. It's not a good ratio.
No, I think that is Jameis Winston is flexing on him right now with that with those kind of numbers. But what about him? Do you think the teams are going to like about him?
I mean, the guy has some pretty clean mechanics. When I look at him, I would say he's more accurate than what those stats would say. I would say that he dealt with in 2017. He wasn't the starter for the whole year, but I would say Utah State doesn't have the best weapons to be catching the ball. I mean, last year he had 64% completion percentage. This year it dropped down to 62. Similar amount of yards, but he just had a heck of a year last year with 32 touchdowns and 6 picks. It's kind of it is something I do question if he has that good noggin on his shoulders, that good ability to make these right decisions, not force these passes, and not trying to be that gunslinging deep ball guy because he doesn't have a good arm on him. But man, like, just hone that in a little bit, like put it where it needs to go, like check it out if you got it. I feel like he was just trying to. He was like, all right, I head into the draft this year. I got to put up some big numbers. I got to show out because there's guys like Burrow that are showing out right now. There's guys like Tua and Herbert who are all top flight guys, and I got to be that top flight guy. I think it kind of bit him in the ass, but to go from six interceptions to 17, definitely something that kind of shoots that red flag up. Like, all right, what happened, man? And I'll tell you what, like, they just did not have the weapons that they had last year. Is that is something to be concerned about? Yeah, I think you got to be a little bit more consistent about your decision making. You've got to be more consistent. Anticipating throws. You got to tone down these mistakes because they're not going to allow you to last in the NFL for throwing like that.
Do you have a spot or a scheme fit for him? Anywhere you'd like to see him land?
I don't have one that I'm like really dead set on. I honestly think he could probably fit in any type of scheme, whether you want him to be that vertical passing spread offense or if you want to be that guy that can kind of, work the field and be that game managing type of quarterback with the ability to kind of escape and run and make plays on his own. I personally like him with the Colts, with Frank Reich and being in an offense like that. I feel like that's kind of, the favorite pick is for him to land in Indy. I think they pick at like 13 or something like that. I think that's the spot to go. I don't want to see him go to Tampa where he's got to be just this like alpha gunslinger because I don't really think that's what he's all about. But I do think if you get him in Indianapolis, get some more weapons around him, build him up with like a guy like T.Y. and Parrish Campbell and Marlon Mack, get a few more weapons. Eric Ebron, he's got a good offensive line. I think that could be a good spot where maybe he sits behind Brissett for half a season and he comes in and starts showing out and gets acclimated to the NFL level. Because I'll tell you what, you're not playing, tremendous teams if you're playing, in Utah State. I know they played teams like LSU this year and whatnot, but they definitely did not play NFL level competition all year round.
Whenever you're not necessarily evaluating, but kind of just looking at these guys as a whole, especially like a guy like Burrow and Tua, something could be said about the just ridiculous talent that they had surrounding them. Namely, I mean, like a Joe Burrow who had Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase and Hilaire and Thaddeus Moss and just the ridiculous amount of talent that they had. How much does that factor in at all to you that, how ridiculous of a season? Because if you look at his 2018 to 2019, it's like night and day difference. It's like a switch flipped on with him. Now, with having this amount of talent surrounding him, like, is some of this, are we going to get got and find out when if he goes to a situation where it's not as good as what it is? Based off the fact that he had, some of the best talents you could ever ask for, surrounding him?
Well, I mean, let me ask you this. Where were those guys last year as well? because I don't see them putting up these gaudy numbers that they put up this year. And I'm not saying they're bad players or nothing. And I'm not saying like Burrow made these guys, but I think one scheme fit really helped. I mean, Joe Brady just basically really made this offense and put Burrow and gave him a chance to succeed and really develop as a really good passing quarterback. And then they put Justin Jefferson more on the inside, made him run a little bit more slot, and Jamar Chase developed really fast and developed as their lead receiver on the outside. So I think Joe Brady was a big thing, a big reason why that they had so much success, that Joe Burrow took that next step and elevated all the guys that are around him. I mean, they're all very talented guys, but I think you can look at Joe Burrow specifically and say, all right, he took these guys, showed NFL teams these guys have NFL talent, where Tua stepped into a team that had Devonta Smith, that had I don't know if Henry Ruggs was a big part of the offense in 2017, but had Jerry Jeudy, had these guys that they're candidates for the Biletnikoff every single year. I mean, they're top leading candidates. So I would give Joe more of the credit to elevating his guys, where I think Tua kind of is that guy that already had these guys that were elevated, where they could have elevated Tua's game a little bit more. And not to take anything away from Tua, because Tua is a hell of a prospect. But I think he just stepped into a more forgiving environment than Burrow did.
Yeah, I like that point you made about the stats from last year. I think that's something that's simple and easy to look at. It doesn't take like if you're trying to wade between and through all these guys. That's something easy you can look at and try and figure that kind of stuff out. How do you feel about Jalen Hurts? He's someone who I'm kind of intrigued by. Obviously, I think he's going to be very scheme specific. Probably not. If you look at how he produced from his time in Alabama to obviously last year with Oklahoma, I mean he threw 340 pass attempts this year. 2016 with Bama, he threw 382, so he had 40 fewer pass attempts, and he had almost 1,100 more yards. And then you add on his rushing production. I think he had like 20 rushing touchdowns or something absurd like that as well. Led the NCAA in yards per pass attempt in 2019 as well. Is he someone that you have hopes for at all in an NFL system, or is he someone who you think was just a product of the system in Oklahoma that's just produced Heisman winner after Heisman winner for the past 3-4 years?
Yeah, I was hoping you bring him up because, man, I know a lot of people, some respected people, in my mind, really like Jalen Hurts. Have him, is cemented inside their top 5. Some even inside their top 3. Like they got it as their 3. I don't see it, man. I don't see it. He's a product of Lincoln Riley. This offense in Oklahoma. He's such a good runner. I mean, that dude has running back traits. And I'm not saying he's going to be a running back in the NFL. We heard that with Lamar Jackson, so I'm not going to, go back to that and beat that drum to death. But he's not an NFL quarterback, not like an elite NFL quarterback, not like a he's not even on Jake Fromm's level, man. I just don't see it. I don't think he processes very well. I think he's very slow going from read to read. He'll get locked onto one guy. He'll force a ball into a bad spot. I hate the way he throws his receivers into oncoming traffic and just basically sets them up to just get murdered in the open field. Jaden Hazelwood is still lucky to be playing football, and he was a freshman last year because the amount of times that he just would get smoked over the middle of the field. Like I just could not stand it. It being a former wide receiver, I felt it. Every single one of those hits that I watched, I'm like, damn, man, like put in a spot where like he's safe. Like it's not trying to kill you guys. I'm not saying he has like the worst mechanics ever, but they're just not great. He struggles throwing off an adjusted platform, and he's going to have to do that a lot, being a guy who struggles to go from read to read, that has a slow processor. So he's going to have to be able to throw on the run, have to be able to throw off his back foot from time to time, and I just don't see it from him. I think he struggles a lot. He'll sail the ball high quite often. He'll be a guy who tucks it and runs and gets skittish in the pocket. Not great arm strength, but it's not terrible. like I said, he'll sail a lot of balls. So I do think he struggles with accuracy and confidence in his arm as an overall whole.
With him, I could see, because the NFL is such a copycat league, teams taking him and trying to do a lot of similar things that we've seen them do with Lamar Jackson. I know with Jalen Hurts, I believe I saw it in Alabama, where Alabama kind of does the combine there for their players, and said that he ran a 4.45 or something like that. So I don't know, like I feel like that is where I could see. I wouldn't be surprised if he ended up going in the first round and like late first, something like that, where a team just falls in love with his speed and wants to try to do something like that, or a team trades up to grab him, and tries to do things that we've saw with Lamar Jackson. With this being said, like I said, this league is such a copycat league, and teams are seeing the success that they've had with him and trying to mold him into the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm 100% him being against him being like a first, second, man, even a third round guy. Like I draft him in the fourth personally, but I do understand what you're saying, and I do 100% agree with you that I do think he will end up going earlier than I expect, and he'll be used probably similarly to how we see Lamar Jackson. I think that's going to be kind of that similar comp that you see, from time to time. I personally won't have a comp on Jalen Hurts just because I think he's a very unique player, and I don't think I can comp him to a specific quarterback. But I do agree with what you just said there for sure.
Do you have a guy who's kind of under the radar right now who it wouldn't surprise you to see jump up into like the second round, maybe even flirt with the end of the first that might not be either talked about as much right now?
Yeah, I got a couple guys that I don't know. One guy I think will jump at either the end of the second or the early to mid third, and that's Anthony Gordon from Washington State. Kind of the same thing when you talked about Jalen Hurts when you said that he's kind of a product of the system there, and I think the same could be said for Anthony Gordon because you kind of saw Gardner Minshew just
maybe.
He was up in college too his last year. Anthony Gordon steps in first year and does the same thing. I do see, some things that I like from him. He can throw from an adjusted platform. He can throw, change his arm angle and avoid, hands that are in his face and whatnot. So there are things that I do like, but there's a lot of things that he's got to work on. But I can see the NFL team thinking like, okay, there's something I can work with here. I can develop this guy. But another guy, and people are going to hate it, but I can see him being like a late third, early fourth. This is a guy I can develop. He's shown plenty of flashes. And I'll be honest with you, I finished his tape yesterday, and I kind of agree with it. I would personally want to take him, early sixth, late to mid fifth. But that's Shea Patterson out of Michigan, and I hate to say it, but man, he's not terrible. He does need to get better, and making decisions. He's got to get a little less cocky with that arm. He needs to be better at processing, going from read to read a lot quicker than he does. Stop getting locked down. Stop throwing into pressure. That's tough to teach, but with a guy that was a 4 or 5 star prospect and someone that was really thought of extremely high of, I think there's something you can mold there. I mean, he's definitely got a lot of traits that you like. I think he can, move fairly well in the pocket. He could get out and scramble and make something of some runs. I think he's got decent athleticism and whatnot. But I could see him jumping up and going a lot higher than people want him to. But so the team might be, fans are going to be like, oh, why did you jump up so high to take him? So there's something you can mold, man. And if there's a quarterback that you could try to mold, you're going to take him earlier than you expect.
As a Penn State fan, I would love for Shea Patterson just to be the all-time Michigan quarterback.
Yeah. Oh.
Just stay there forever.
Oh yeah. You want him to go back?
Yeah, just make an exemption for him, and just let him be the quarterback in Michigan for the next. Let him serve another term in office, so to speak.
Yeah, because you guys can just beat up on him all year.
Yeah, that's exactly why.
Uter would have to come back though, so that you could beat the crap out of him too. Did he get like 2 or 3 sacks against Michigan this year? I forget. I was watching that game, and I want to say Uter, Gross Matos, and Shaka Tony, they all just dominated that Michigan front and just made Shea's life a living hell.
Yeah, they were a fun defense to watch this year.
Yeah, for sure.
So let's put a dynasty twist on this. Obviously, in superflex formats, these guys are going to go a lot earlier. When do you see, or when would you be pulling the trigger in a one quarterback league? I mean, I guess kind of in general, what how you generally approach one quarterback leagues and rookie drafts. But then just with this class specifically, when would you be looking to take a quarterback off the board?
Yeah, I like this quarterback class, a little bit more than I would say last year's. I wasn't a huge fan of Kyler Murray. Like, I wasn't taking these guys in the first round or nothing like that. There's a lot of talent in this class. I just finished up, a little rough draft of rookie rankings for me. I got Joe Burrow going at the beginning of the second, so I got him at 14. And I think that says something because of the talent in this class, but that's just how I feel about Joe Burrow. And I'll tell you what, if Tua's medical is clear, I mean, I got him right in the middle of the second there too. So I definitely like those top two quarterbacks. After that, kind of things drop off. You'd probably see Herbert go mid third. You'll probably, if one quarterback league, you'll probably see a lot of quarterbacks that I kind of like go undrafted, to be honest with you. I mean, that's just how it goes too with one quarterback leagues. You can't really take a risk on some of these later guys like a Jacob Eason if he lands in a good spot, if he lands in Tampa, I mean, Winston could be gone and Eason might be the quarterback there. So I mean, he's someone that might jump up my board there too. But it's tough to really weigh out the options here. Depending on landing spot for sure. I mean, these guys are going to jump if they find a home to start right away. If they have a inside track to starting soon, whether it's this year or next year, you're definitely going to have them jump up boards a little bit. But right now, I mean, you're looking at mid second. I'd say, maybe mid early second for a guy like Joe Burrow.
Yeah, that makes sense. And we've talked about it the past couple of weeks, and that's just why you're not going to see me put any hard rankings, because the draft is going to change so much. Like, we see it we already touched on, Ott and Tate and Allen Lazard. Those guys were, late first round picks for me, I think, whenever, during their class, and then the draft happens and all of a sudden you're not even taking them in a 4-round rookie draft. So
yeah, it's funny. I was looking back at a few mock drafts we did pre-draft last year, and then the pre-ADP last year, and then you look at how it all actually turned out, and you're like, whoa.
Yeah, dude, it happens every year. Katie Cannon was another one for me who I loved, and then I don't even think he got drafted, or if he did, it was super late, and then he bounced around, and I don't even know if he even suited up for a regular season NFL game.
Man, people were obsessed with Emmanuel Hall last year, and I think he was going mid-second or something like that, and went on draft. And I think he's with Washington now. That happens.
Under the rule, we don't talk ill about former Missouri players.
Yeah. I saw the hat, so I had to do it.
No, yeah. Yeah, hey, we're about to talk about a Missouri player here in a minute, so but yeah.
No, we're not.
I don't know.
I'm going to skip him, actually.
Oh.
I can't pronounce his last name, so why would I even talk about it?
I don't either. That's Alberto. I'm not even going to attempt that. Just Alberto.
Oh, it's Okuwebanam.
Oh, hey, you're a better man than me. I'm just going to say Alberto.
I got it down now.
I was going to say, we just need to clip Travis May, because it just rolls off his tongue. And every time we go to say his name, we just need to edit it and drop it into the podcast. So it's just going to be Kevin talking, and all of a sudden Travis May comes on and just says Alberto's name. Then it goes back to Kevin talking.
I think I said it pretty good. I mean, me and Travis, good. We might have to have a Albert Okuwebanam off. He might call me Pete. Never mind.
Yeah. I mean, if you want, we can talk about middle line. I mean, you want to talk about Cale Garrett? What do you think about? Is he gonna get? He's somebody that was a preseason SEC All-American and then got hurt. So
who are you talking about?
Cale Garrett, linebacker for Mizzou.
Oh, Mizzou. I have not watched him yet this year. Should I? Should I be watching him?
Yeah, Cale Garrett.
Is he coming out this year, or was he a senior?
Yeah. No, yeah. He was a senior.
All right, man. Well, I'll add him to the list. You know who I'm really excited about for a linebacker? He was a former defensive back. Is that Logan Wilson from Wyoming? Spent some time down at the Senior Bowl and got some clips on him, and dude looked good. So I flipped on the tape, and he's solid, man. You might see him go. I don't want to say top 100, but you might see him go close somewhere around there.
Yeah. So, well, I guess we've ignored it enough. I guess we can go ahead and jump into the tight ends. That's what everyone's here for, right? Everyone's here to hear the tight end takes. So, most.
I'll tell you right now about this tight end class. It's tremendously, extremely deep and averagely deep. Like, it's just average and throughout the whole entire class. Like, I honestly have some decent grades. I don't want to say they're good grades, but decent grades, and they're all pretty similar throughout 12 tight ends that I've scouted so far this year.
Yeah, this is a position group that I haven't gotten to yet. Mostly just because I haven't heard the buzz, and so I just haven't really felt compelled to do so. Who do you like out of this class? You're gonna have to guide me through this. I kind of did some basic stuff on to prepare for this podcast. But who are the guys that you like? You kind of mentioned they're all crammed together. Is there anybody that stands out? Is there anybody that you're excited about at all?
As an NFL guy, I love Cole Kmet. I think he's probably got the most pure all-around game for a tight end. I think he runs. I like Bryson Hopkins as a pure route runner, but I would put Cole Kmet right there with him as a really solid route runner. Good stems to his route, good agility, snaps off routes nicely. He'll catch the ball, away from his frame, and really just pluck it out of the air. Strong hands, and I think he really does well in the blocking game too. So I think he's going to be someone that sees the field on all three downs. I don't think you're going to see him come off the field. He could be that tight end one for a team. People like to comp him to going to New England and stepping in for that Gronk role. Personally, when I look at him, I see him as a guy being a Vikings fan. I see him as a Kyle Rudolph. I wouldn't say he's as he's got the size 6'6", 258. I wouldn't say he's as slow as Kyle Rudolph. I think he's got a little bit more speed to him, but he's not blazing fast. He's not going to be like a Hunter Bryant who fantasy players are going to love. I mean, there's going to be a lot of fantasy people that are okay, Hunter Bryant's my tight end one because he gets the Evan Ingram comp. He gets he's the flexed out wide receiver that's labeled as a tight end. But Cole Kmet's my tight end one pretty easily, I'd say. Hunter Bryant's a close second, but Cole Kmet got he's got a little bit of a lead on him.
So
is that just coming from from an NFL perspective for you, Zach? Just how you were talking about the all around game, would that be flip flopped for fantasy purposes, or would you still have Kmet ahead?
That's a really good question because I don't grade for fantasy football purposes. I grade for NFL purposes. So the fact that he's going to be on the field for all three downs, Hunter Bryant's going to probably not be on the field for running downs unless they play spread offense and run the ball a little bit more. So he's going to be very scheme dependent, where I think Cole Kmet's going to be someone that can, play in any type of offense and be that, 3-down type of tight end. So I'll probably still keep Kmet as my one.
I felt like whenever I was watching Cole Kmet that I was I thought I had transported myself back to the 90s and early 2000s.
Yeah, it's fun to see.
Yeah, I mean, do you think his ceiling could be Jason Witten? Or for me, I felt like he's more of a Heath Miller type tight end, where I think that, in a certain system, I don't think he's ever going to be a guy that we see gets 1,000 yards. I think he's more of a 500-600 yard type guy, but could be heavily utilized inside the red zone because of his big frame and, be able to utilize maybe get 6 to 8 touchdowns, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think you kind of nail it with Heath Miller and Jason Witten. I mean, I could see him being either one of those guys, to be honest with you. I think he, could be that 600 to 800 yard type of guy with 8-9 touchdowns. Honestly, he's going to be someone that's going to be a menace in the red zone and be able to box guys out and go up and get the ball type of tight end. So definitely like what he brings to the game for sure.
with Hunter Bryant, he is definitely, is somebody who's got a profile to have much more speed than he does. You look at his numbers. I mean, he is smaller than most of these guys in his class. Is 6'2", 239. Had a 20.9% dominator rating. Kind of flexed on most of these guys with yards per reception at 15.9 yards per reception, 20.8 breakout age. Had 20% of the targets there at Washington. But with him, he sort of reminded me, at least just with watching the guy, kind of reminded me a little bit of it, more of Evan Ingram type. And I assume with what you're talking about with his inability to be a blocker and be utilized on all third down, that's more or less what his role will probably be in the NFL.
Yeah, he's going to be that flex tight end, get him out, in the middle of the field in the slot, and kind of work the zones and be able to catch the ball strong and run good routes and really for a tight end, run away from guys. I mean, he could be a guy that breaks a lot of angles for defenders and he's got a good catch radius. He's going to go up and get the ball, and like I said, he has strong hands. He'll catch the ball through traffic. And Evan Ingram's my comp for him. I'm guessing is going to be a lot of comp. That's going to be the comp for a lot of guys. So I mean, personally, that's a good comp if you're going in the NFL and you're looking at a fantasy football guy.
There's another H. Bryant tight end who's coming out this year.
Harrison.
Harrison out of FAU. Just looking at some of his numbers, man, like his production numbers look really solid. College dominator rating of 26.2. He has the breakout age for a tight end at 19.4, which puts him in the 91st percentile. And he actually led his team this year in yards from scrimmage. He had 18.7% of those. So like not even just the receiving yards, like the yards from scrimmage in total. So do you have any feelings on him? How does he profile to you? What's he look like?
Yeah, I got some feelings about you right now. You're talking about some analytics stuff, bringing in a film guy over here. Come on. I know you had Jesse Reeves on last week, but come on, man.
Oh, he rubbed off, and like I said, I did not spend any time watching any of these guys, so I got to say something to sound smart.
Oh, I'm just messing with you. I'll dig into analytics when I need to. But from what I've seen with him, I mean, he's smooth. He creates separation late. He's got subtle hands, in hand fighting. Like it's that cheap little hand fighting. He doesn't get called in the NFL. He does that really well, and he's like a nimble wide receiver out there. To be honest with you, and he's not let's say he's like a small dude out there. I mean, he's 6'4", 240. But he plays like he's got some nimble feet. He's not flustered by contact. He's not my top rated tight end. He's not even in my top 5, but I like what he brings to the game. Like I said, this class is littered with average tight ends, and he's one of them that I like, but I can't love because there's just stuff he doesn't do. He's not very fast. He needs space to work well. He's not gonna, if he can get jammed off when he's in his 2-point stance and really throws off the timing of his routes. I mean, there's stuff that I don't like that kind of dips him down a little bit. But yeah, he put up over 1,000 yards last year and 7 touchdowns. Not bad at all, man.
Yeah, the way you were just describing him, like that to me sounds like Evan Ingram as well. Like I've seen Evan Ingram get bullied off the line. He kind of needs that space to really operate and get going.
Sure, I would say Harrison Bryant's a little bit more physical than Evan Ingram is. Excuse me. I think I wouldn't say like he's good like the Cole Kmet like I just talked about. He's not like that type of physical, but he's not afraid of like getting into some contact, fighting for the ball, and he's a good positional blocker too. He's a little bit better blocker than Evan Ingram's going to be. He's not going to like beat you with technique or nothing like that, but he will get his frame in front of you and try to beat you that way.
So tell me about Albert O. Let's talk about him, right? Probably the best tight end in the class. He's going to crush the combine. I mean, we headed into last year. I mean, he was a guy that, or heading into the season, he was someone that people thought about as a late first, early second round pick.
I know, but he fell like a brick, man. But
the question is though, with that, so with him, he never has though. Like, I mean, he hasn't really had a monster season. But with him, it's been injuries in his career, but also this year. I mean, Missouri's program took a face dive. I mean, they were at 5-1 to start the year, and then just completely fell off a cliff, and just were absolutely horrendous the rest of the way, which is what caused Barry Odom to be fired. Thank God. And I was happy to see him go. But so with him, like, I still feel like, I mean, he still has all the physical traits that you're looking for. He has been able to stay healthy, which is obviously a problem. But he had an early breakout age his freshman year, but he just never has put together a big season. For him, I mean, he's had his most receiving yards was 466. He did have 11 receiving touchdowns his freshman year, or as age 19 season, but I mean, he's just never really had some big year where, in terms of production wise, it's going to be interesting to see how he tests. But other than that, like, you don't seem like you like Alberto. What about his game that you're not a big fan of?
Yeah, and talking with some guys, I mean, it's funny when you talk, like, film guys talk. Like, we'll get in a group chat on Twitter and go back and forth, and we all grind film and whatnot. We all see, this play maybe a little differently than that play. And, we all go back and forth and talk about what we see and what we don't see and whatnot. And to me, when I look at Alberto, he's going to struggle to get on the field, man. He's going to be that guy he might get drafted like third round or second round just based off of potential. He's a high ceiling guy, but he's a very low floor guy to me too. I think when you look at his blocking game, he's extremely off balance when he's engaged. Plays too far over his toes. I think he's an upright type of player that can get jammed at the line of scrimmage in his routes. Gets his timing thrown off way too often for me to like him at all. Like when he's out there in a full time position. I think he's got lazy footwork. I think he's more of like a statue, especially when he's blocking on the edge. I don't think he really creates holes at all for the running back. So he's not going to find playing time very often to me. My NFL outlook of him says, it's Okwuegbunam projects currently as a secondary flex tight end who will see the field in certain situations. I think it's going to be more of red zone type of situations. He's going to be not used heavily in blocking situations, but he's going to dominate in contested catches and in the passing game. He has potential to be an eventual starter, but right now a team is likely going to try to develop him, and possibly he gets on the field in goal line passing situations. So I see him as a situational player right now, more of a flex tight end, get him out of blocking situations, allow him to succeed in those contested catch situations at the goal line, let him get those touchdowns, but don't let him be on the field for the majority of the game.
Okay, so Jimmy Graham is your comp. Okay, well, let's move on to the next one.
33-year-old Jimmy Graham is my comp. Yeah, I hate to burst your bubble.
Jimmy Graham with no patellar tendons.
There you go.
We'll see what happens. We'll see. I'm excited to see what he does in the combine. See how he comes out.
I actually have questions on what I want to watch for him. Like I said earlier in the show, like I'll write down questions. One of the questions is, how is he going to score in the agility drills? Is he going to be a guy that runs them fairly well? Is he going to be a guy that puts up some good explosive numbers? Good vertical. I want to see a decent 40 time out of him. So the speed and agility game is going to be huge for me when it comes to the combine for Alberto.
Next week, we're not that far away.
Can't wait, man. I seriously have a countdown going on my phone. I can't wait. It's like Christmas.
Zach, real quick, with someone like that where you're looking to see something specific, let's say he goes to the combine and he doesn't do the agility drills. How do you then factor that into your evaluation? I mean, like, if you just get no added information from that at all.
Yeah, so like I said, he's off balance when he's engaged with defenders. He plays too far over his toes, and he's an upright player. I want you to so I have questions about his overall agility. Is he going to be able to create space in his routes? Is he going to be able to really snap off a comeback route or drop into his zone and let his defender run by him? I don't know if I see that consistently enough in his film. I see a thick frame guy who loves to play off of contact and fight for contested catches. I want you, if you're going to be that flexed out tight end that I see that is going to be able to fight off catches like that, I want you to be able to drop on a dime and catch a ball in the hole in the zone. So I don't see that consistently from him in his game right now. So if I see that at the combine, you've answered that question. You're probably going to get a little bit more of a bump for me. But like I said, I've taken a lot of weight off the combine where it's not going to make you jump like significantly. Like if he blows up the combine, he's not going to be my tight end one, but you might see him jump up a spot or two. It does make me run back to the tape too. Like if for whatever reason, like I don't know, let's go with a guy like Colby Parkinson from Stanford. Like if he, there's some on him. I'd have to dig him out for you, but if he can find a way, like show a little bit more of like an explosive game to him, like if I see him broad jump and it's unbelievable and it's off the charts, like if he runs a fast 40 time, I'm gonna have to go back and look at his game. Like, okay, this dude's not just like a jump ball type of player. He's not like a JJ Arcega-Whiteside last year, where he was like a typical jump ball type of guy. Like he's not that slower JJ Arcega-Whiteside. So there's those questions that I need answered where I will go back to your film and be like, okay, what did I miss? Did I not watch the correct game of you? Did I watch a game where you just really struggled at doing that certain trait? Because we're all human. I'm going to make mistakes. Watching these guys, it's not always perfect, but I do what I write down what I see, and that's what I go by. So if I see some of these guys that excel a lot, yeah, I'm going to write these down and get back to the tape if I have to.
I did see that they had him at a 4.540 for the record. So
Albert,
yeah,
4.5, huh?
Yeah,
I was gonna be happy with the probably good 4.6. So if he runs a 4.5, I'll be thrilled.
Yeah. So I don't know. He like I said, he's one of the guys that I'm really excited to see how he does at the combine and see. So I guess, and then the last one that we could talk about would be, is it Adam Trotman from Dayton? Anyways, him. So with him, when you look at his numbers, I guess, I mean, you look at 70 receptions, 916 yards, and 14 touchdowns. But he played at Dayton. So how much of that do you factor in to a prospect where we know, especially even like Harrison Bryant, who played at FAU, who they're not going up against the elite talent, or they're not playing in the SEC, or some of these other conferences. Do you take that into consideration at all, or do you just purely watch the what you see on tape?
Yeah, a little bit of both. I mean, I go off of exactly what I see, but I also do, put into, I factor in, like, I mean, literally what I have in his scouting report for one of his weaknesses is, plain and simply put, he's just not ready to take on a full-time role right now. There's a lot to learn, but he's got an extremely high ceiling. I focus a lot on blocking for tight ends, man. If you can block, you're going to be on the field for 3 downs. Like, it's as simple as that. I think he lacks good hand placement when it comes to blocking. Overall technique is poor. Slow punch off the line, right off the snap. Footwork is kind of all over the place. And when he's engaged with a defender, he's kind of choppy. Doesn't really, get the leg drive that you like to see. Gets thrown around with the power inside rip. He's a strong player, but just not in the blocking game. So he's more of that, when I talked about with Alberto, more of that flexed out type of tight end that you want to see running routes, making tough catches. He can play inline, he can play flex. He catches the ball extremely well. I think he's one of those guys. He does have the basketball background. That's a guy who I really like, that is going to be able to play above the rim, out jump defenders. Uses strong hands to torque and rip when he gets that ball at the high point. So someone I really like, but someone that has a lot to work on as well. I think he's going to probably be one of those guys that you see like George Kittle. He didn't come in right away and put up gaudy numbers. I think he could sit behind a top tier guy and really become I don't want to say George Kittle because best tight end in the league right now probably by some people, but I mean there's, like I said, there's a high ceiling to him, so why not, right? I mean there's potential to be a really good linebacker in this league.
One more guy, Zach. Just give us your quick thoughts. He's someone else that when I was looking through some Dynasty rookie rankings that I saw fairly high. Bryson Hopkins. Any thoughts on him? How's he graded out for you so far? What's your evaluation?
Oh man, he is my tight end 4 or 5, I believe 5. but he was my tight end 1 coming into the year. I was excited about this dude. He's just flawless in his routes, man. I love what I see when he's moving in and out of his cuts. Right when he gets that vertical stem and just coming back, I like what I see. Just gets a good snap, or he snaps and drops right in the hole in the zone. He's another former basketball player, I believe, or baseball player, one of the two. So he's got some athleticism to him. He's crisp. He's fluid, like what he does in the open field. He'll gain those extra yards. I love, just a lot of things I like from him. But he's another guy that does not like physicality. He's not going to be a guy that when you get a jam on him in the line of scrimmage. Another guy that just doesn't really like that. He'll get his timing thrown off. His whole route will just get thrown off. To be honest with you, it's almost like he doesn't know what route he's running anymore. If you get some physicality on him, someone that also needs help with the blocking game for sure. Suffers as an inline tight end right now. But there's definitely potential to improve, and I think he's another very high upside type of tight end.
Where do you have Thaddeus Moss in this group? I know he had that the big 64-yard touchdown in the national title game, or was that?
I think it's. I can't remember now. I just watched too many games, man.
Yeah. Anyways, where do you have him, and is he somebody that you think is going to profile more as somebody who is fourth, fifth round pick, something in that range, or even later, or maybe a team falls in love with him because of his name?
Yeah, I don't want to say you fall in love with him because of his name. I have him as tight end 3, but I have him as an overall ranked 83. So I like him in that 3rd round range. Like I said, this tight end class is very average and deep, averagely deep, you could say. But yeah, so he's my 3rd ranked tight end. I like him as an early 3rd round pick. He's a blocker, man. He's a blocker, and he can ward off defenders and make some nice catches too. But he's not a separator. He's not going to run away from you, and he can make some nice catches too. I mean, I don't know if you saw that catch. I want to say it was against South Carolina, where he just had this beautiful outstretched catch and catches the ball on the sideline. And he's got some good hands. He's just not going to be a guy that's going to run away from you and create a lot of separation.
Imagine the pressure of being Randy Moss's son.
I can't imagine. Can't imagine.
At least he's going to have a chance, because most of these guys who are attached to like ridiculous, Hall of Fame level talent, they never make it, right? Usually you don't see it very often. So at least he has a shot to actually play in the NFL.
Yeah, I think he's got a good path. I mean, he's a solid tight end all around.
Do you have any sleepers you want to touch on, or we basically get to a bunch of these guys that you have in that same group?
Yeah, we hit on most of them. I mean, one guy I kind of want to throw out there, I won't talk too much on him, but Arkansas tight end CJ O'Grady, Cheyenne O'Grady, really, really solid all-around tight end. So many off-the-field issues. I think the dude was suspended 3 times, kicked off the team at one point. So just a lot of off-the-field issues you got to worry about. But just a really solid overall tight end. You just got to worry about the off-the-field stuff with him.
Had him in a college fantasy league, and he had some pretty nice games for him. But then there were also games where I would go to pull up my lineups, and it would just have the red O next to his name. It's like, well,
yeah.
So I'm not playing him this week.
Spent a lot of time watching from the press box.
All right. Well, I think that's enough fun with the tight end position. So before we go, let's since this is the last one of the group, who are your top 5 running backs and who are your top 5 wide receivers right now heading into the combine?
Oh, all right. Let's do it. DeAndre Swift is my 1, Dobbins 2, Jonathan Taylor 3. No. Clyde Edwards-Helaire 3, and then Jonathan Taylor 4, Cam Akers 5. And then my wide receivers are Jerry Jeudy 1, CeeDee Lamb 2, Justin Jefferson 3, and hold on to your britches, everyone, Brian Edwards 4,
yes,
and Jalen Reagor 5.
Why the disrespect to Jalen Reagor? I wasn't planning on that.
Let's not focus on that. Let's talk. I need you to say Brian Edwards one more time, then we're just going to end this pod.
Brian Edwards.
There it is.
Pouring up season, boys. Yeah, there we go. I love Jalen Reagor for the record. I think he has potential to be the best wide receiver in the class. So
I don't disagree with you, but man, I'll tell you who Justin Jefferson and Brian Edwards. I just could not keep them out of my 3 and 4 there. They're just
I love Brian Edwards now. Like I said, I think that I feel like he could be the next Chris Godwin. I think that. So, yeah, and I love Chris Godwin. Like me and Chris Godwin.
Analytics guys got Brian Edwards as Michael Thomas. So.
Oh, ears perk up a little bit there. No, I love Brian Edwards. Like, it was no knock against that. It's just Jalen Reagor. Like, I would, like, me personally, I think, like, if I, like, it would probably be CeeDee Lamb and then Jalen Reagor and then Jerry Jeudy for me. So,
yeah, I mean, I'd say that's a good 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 there.
So, but anyways, I just thought I'd be asked. So, yeah. I don't know. We'll have to see how everything tests out, but I just love some Jalen Reagor. And then, are you high on Tyler Johnson too?
You know, I mean, being a Minnesota guy, I mean, a lot of people thought the reason why he's dipping down so far is because attitude issues and whatnot. I tell you what, I did a lot of research. I've talked to a lot of people that are close with the team and work close with him. I'll tell you, I've not found a single attitude issue with him. He's worked with Adam Thielen. He's worked with Antoine Whitfield. They've all worked well to really all better each other. So I'm not really worried about the attitude issues. So once you start hearing about them, I'd start to ignore them a little bit, unless I miss something. I'm not perfect, so I might miss something. But I got him at 13. It's just such a deep class. I think right now, if you're talking about rookie rankings and whatnot overall, I want to say I have Tyler Johnson at the end of the second. I think I'm at 23 right now. Yeah, 23. So I definitely like him, but there's some other guys that just like a little bit more than him.
Yeah, the thing with Tyler Johnson that threw me for a loop was the fact that he didn't get the Senior Bowl invite. Like that kind of threw me off. But when all the character issue stuff started coming out, like if you watched Fleck at I don't know if it was the last press conference of the year, but like, dude, he was like getting emotional and choked up talking about him, and I was just thinking to myself, like, dude, you're not going to get emotional like that talking about a guy if he was a dick. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Or like he's crying because he's so happy he's gone or something. Who knows?
Damn it,
that's not the case, though.
All right. So one last thing, and we'll get you out of here on this. I need your top 5 kicker rankings heading into this one. All right, can you give me that? I mean, Tyler Bass, Rodrigo Blankenship. I mean, any of these guys do something for you?
No, I got this for you. Hang on. No, I got nothing for you.
Yeah. All right. Well, I really appreciate having you on today. It was good times, even though the disrespect my boy Alberto. I guess we'll come back. We'll circle around later, and we'll figure out how this played out. But really appreciate having you on. And again, everybody needs to go check out his draft guide. Buy it now. I mean, that's an incredible price. What was it? $8.99 if you buy it early.
The
promo code. Yeah.
Draft. Yeah. So if you head over to dynastydraftroom.com/NFL draft guide, purchase that right now. You get 10% off. 10% off. Use the promo code NFL Draft. And yeah, man, there's a lot of tools in there. I mean, I'll give you some player comps. Their college production, what they did at the combine, where I saw their strengths and weaknesses. I'll give you their NFL outlook, where I think they're going to fit in at the next level. Their size measurements, so you got their hand size, their wingspan, their height, their weight, all the red flags that are fine based off all of the research I've done on the background. As much as I can do, I don't get the type of background checks that the NFL guys get, but I do what I can to find these red flags and whatnot. I'll give you a round grade, my overall tape grade, and then where they rank at my big board and their positional ranks as well. So and age as well. If I can find their age, player comps, all that, I get that in there for you. So a lot of stuff that you can use for fantasy football, or if you're an NFL draft nut like me, you can kind of see where I rank on all these guys here.
It's probably gonna be just loaded with analytics too, just pouring with analytics.
Right at. But hey, maybe next year.
I mean, the main thing that I took away from that, Zach, was the first thing you mentioned was hand size. So
yeah, had to do it.
All right. Well, maybe next year, but there's nothing wrong with that. Grinding some tape. Anyways, so once again, yeah, you can follow him on Twitter at NFL_Zach. and check out all of his work. Does excellent job, grinding the tape, as they say. But anyways, until next week when we're back again with another episode. Once again, hit that subscribe, hit that like, hit that thumbs up on the old YouTube channel. Really helps us out. I really appreciate it. And also as well, we have a Slack channel if you want to reach out to us, start talking some Dynasty. We can all start having a little good old circle jerk as the combine's going on next week, and we can talk about 40 times. It'll be a good time. It'll be a blasty blast, as they say. So,
do they say that?
I don't know who says it.
Who says that?
I don't know. Somebody probably out there. But anyways, once again, hit me up on Twitter at FantasyRat13, slide in the DMs, or at CKutzerFF. We'll get you in there, and we can have a blasty blast and be a banana sandwich. I'm done. All right. Until next week, take it easy, and we will see you again next week. Thank you for being a friend.